part of the work do you find most rewarding?
I think I'll have a challenge. When someone says, this site's really difficult, hold my beer. I'm going to see if I can make this work. So for me, this probably starts back in 2012. I'd just come back from Afghanistan, been a lot of fighting and destruction, and we were based in Borneo at the time. Over New Year, we flew up into the highlands in the interior of the jungle to go and do some survival training. And as we were flying up, 10,000 foot up in the air, I was looking out the windows, and all I could see was palm oil plantations as far as the eye can see. And it was just horrific to see that level of natural destruction up there. And it lit a bit of a passion in me that I wanted to do something for nature, I wanted to do something for conservation. But I also knew we needed to feed people, so I wanted to be involved in farming as well. So I took a sabbatical and went to learn to farm. And I saw these opportunities to work restoring nature sites and get paid for it and work with livestock. And the fact that it could work in a changing regime, with subsidies going, we were going to have to be a bit more innovative with how we looked at funding nature conservation and finding other ways to break into farming in the industry. So while I was at university then, as a mature student, I came up with a plan to set up grazing management and to basically provide outsourced nature conservation with animals for organisations, government bodies, charities, private landowners, whoever needed it.
So we were trying to play this balancing act for a long time of giving enough to the business but also keeping our options open and not putting too much pressure on the business in those early years. We both are now full-time on the business. We've got about 40 cattle and about 25 goats and sheep, all of which are used for conservation purposes across a huge number of different types of habitats and projects in Gloucestershire, Herefordshire and Monmouthshire, and we love it because it's working with other people who are excited about the same things as we are. So it's working on sites like this one here where we are now, where there's like a really clear ecological aim and we can be part of that project with our animals.
So there are some incredible jobs that animals can do that just machinery can't when it comes to restoring nature reserves, and these sites of really high ecological value. So we provide that service for people who don't want to manage their own animals. And I just love the way that you can influence so many different ecological niches with them. Come on! Come on! Come on!
We've got 6 belted Galloway cows and heifers on this site. They are working here to open it up as a habitat for nightjars and also for adders. The site's managed by Natural Resources Wales, and they've got various key species that they want to manage the habitat for. So the cattle in this case are working alongside the mechanical work they're doing to try and get on top of the bracken. So here the bracken is so invasive, and also some of this tree regrowth as well. It's crowding out what would originally have been a really beautiful open heathland. So with the mechanical intervention, they're cutting down the trees, and they want the cattle in to make sure that they don't get all that regrowth of the trees coming straight back in. They're also flattening a lot of the bracken, and the cattle's job then is to help trample it and to open up the opportunity for other species to come back. So in this case, that would be things like heather, and we're seeing really beautiful foxgloves here as well.
Part of it for me is how these guys are key ecosystem engineers. They're replacing those natural wild aurochs, the wild cattle that we would have had, that were keeping all this landscape open so that all those other species that are naturally here could be here. Some of the things I love is the way that, that impact of the cattle eating the grass then helps it expand and grow, and then it can outcompete so that we don't just end up with just bramble everywhere. We want a bit of bramble, but we want a bit of grass, we want a bit of foxgloves, we want a bit of silver birch, we want a bit of everything. It's that diversity of habitat which gives it that. And the cattle do that so much better than a machine ever could. And one of the really important things, is cow shit. It's cow dung. The dung from these things then creates so much rich insect habitat, which then the bats can then come in and eat, which then the small mammals and other stuff will get in and eat that, then the bigger stuff's eating that, and the whole food chain works from that original cowpat, as long as we're doing it without using the insecticides, without that chemical treatment. And it's awesome to see that going. And at the moment it's just a small number of animals while we wait for the mechanical intervention to catch up, and we'll build up the numbers of animals. But it's a really exciting process to be part of and to be in from the beginning as we're restoring this habitat.
A really important part of our business has been using new technology to enable us to deliver the sort of wildlife and habitat impacts on the sites that we're working on. One of those technologies is geo-fencing. So the cattle wear these collars which have got a solar panel on them and provide a GPS location on the animal. So we're able to use these on the goats as well. There's a smaller version we use for the goats. And by using these, we can draw a boundary on our app, on our phone, to show the cattle or the goats where they should be. When the animals reach the boundary, they'll get a beeping noise from the collar, and that will tell them to turn back. And they pick that up really quickly. They learn the system really quickly.
So on this site, we're using No Fence to help manage it for the school group that comes through. So we wanted to create a route for them where they'd be separate from the cattle. So you can see here where it's been ungrazed, and that's a route that the public can walk through if they don't want to be with the cattle. And you can see, the sort of the lusher greener stuff here, and then you can see a line here where the cattle have been grazing, and that's what No Fence allows us to do. So school kids walking through, they can see the cattle, but they don't have to walk through the cattle. But we can still manage the habitats in that way.
So what we've got here are some of the signs that we use on all of our sites. It's really important to us that when people come to the sites where our cattle are, they know what to expect. That helps them plan whether they want to see the cattle or whether they want to avoid it. All of our signs have got these QR codes on, which links directly to the No Fence collars. So either you can use this to go and find the cattle, or you can use this to plan your route to go far away from it.
So the way we've set this up with this random shape you see here is there's a pond they can drink from here. But this is an ecologically sensitive pond here, so they're excluded from that pond so that they're not interfering with the wildlife there, but they can get to that pond there. Some of the main footpaths are across here, and the cattle, as you can see, have been excluded from that path by keeping them back, just using the No Fence system. And then again, there's another footpath that runs through the centre here. So we've tried to exclude them from as much of the path as possible, but we've created a bridge so they can move across backwards and forwards. And then we're starting some new trials working with the Welsh Government and Pasture for Life to look at the whole next level of animal welfare monitoring. So with the applicator here, one of these, which is a sensor, goes inside the stomach of the cattle, and it stays in there and is taking recordings every 15 minutes of basically all the vital signs of the animals. That then gets picked up through a LoRaWAN, long-range wireless area network system, which then goes over a 4G back to a cloud. The AI algorithm runs through it and spots any issues. So it will then flag us an alert to our phone to say if an animal's got an infection because it's got a high temperature. If an animal hasn't drunk water for a certain period of time, we'll get an alert to know there might be an issue with the water. If an animal's moving abnormally too much or too little, if it's too hot, if it's too cold, and it allows us to manage the animals with a real level of detail so we can make sure we've got the best animal welfare as well as manage them remotely across loads of sites. And it's that mixture of high animal welfare but also being really efficient so we can scale the nature solutions we're trying to offer here, because I think the problems nature faces are huge, so we need to find an appropriately scaled measure to help it back. So this is part of the new trials we're doing with the LoRaWAN long-range wireless area sensors. It's taken from some technology that was used in the intensive dairy industry, which we then combined with some sort of techniques and technologies that have been used for remote seabird colony monitoring out in the Scilly Isles, out in the Atlantic. And we're sort of trying to fuse those two ideas together so that we can do that monitoring of the cattle, but more remotely. So it's got the solar panels to power it even through the winter. And then it's got a 6-meter telescopic mast. So every 50 minutes it takes a recording, every hour it'll send it out. And it basically pings up to a long-range wireless area network receiver up there, which then cuts across to a 4G sort of modem, in effect, which then sends it through to the cloud. That's when the algorithm runs through it with the AI program in effect, which is then able to work out what's normal, what's not, and send us an automated alert to our phones. So we can get ahead of any problems before they become too serious. And it's that being able to get ahead of the problem. You know, a stitch in time saves 9, and that's what we're looking at with this technology. Don't get me wrong, it's innovation, right? There's a lot of things we're getting wrong, there's issues we're having to work through, but you know, as I said, 999 ways a light bulb didn't work, one way that it did, and that's all part of the innovation and experimenting journey, hey? One of the things I love about this job is the array of habitats we get to work with. So up here, for example, you know, it's restoring a heathland for the adders and the nightjars. We work on scrubland sites, we work on cliff sites for rare mosses, we'll work on wet meadows, work on floodplains. And each of those habitats has its own unique requirements. And it's great fun working with the ecologists to learn about all those different sites and then come up with a plan to work out how we're going to deliver what we need to. And it keeps it really fresh and interesting every time. So yeah, I think I'm very lucky, got probably some of the best jobs in the world.
Got one project down on the River Wye at the moment where it's so interesting when the different benefits can kind of layer up. So the issue down there, it's a site of special scientific interest, but the invasive Himalayan balsam, as with so many of our rivers, is really causing issues there. It's also interspersed in thick bracken, so it's a bit of a nightmare. However, the cattle love the Himalayan balsam. It must taste delicious, so they will go smashing through the bracken, flatten it out, uproot the balsam, eat it up, and it's just perfect. So it's a win-win. And by actually having these two annoying species together, they've made it much easier to manage. So sometimes it just works, and it's beautiful.
For us, I think we always say necessity is the mother of innovation and invention. We've come at it from quite a challenging position without having a farm to begin with and having to find bits of land spread all over the place, so we've always had to innovate to try and make that happen. And that's in a nature conservation farming focus, but I think for farmers more generally as well, you know, the whole system is changing, and finding ways to innovate and manage and deal with those changes just becomes even more important. And it's not all about just whizzy tech, but it's about trying to find different ways to approach these problems, to think about how you can deal with that change in the climate, with the wetter winters, with the hotter summers, with the change in global prices and tariffs. There are so many problems being thrown at farmers at the moment. So finding those ways to think a little bit outside the box, to innovate, to see what else you can learn from other industries, bring across, so that we can develop and be more resilient and have really successful, thriving businesses, thriving farms, and you know, thriving nature.